again, the great honor, Victory, I'm going to read a little bit more of your bio because it is worth our audience hearing. Victory Osarumwense is a multi-talented Nigerian writer, poet, and development and finance professional. She has a first-class degree in accounting and recently completed her MSc at LSE as a Chevening Scholar in International Development Management. Despite her busy schedule, as many of you all will know, as an LSE student, Victory remains dedicated to her passion for poetry and storytelling. Her poems cover a broad range of themes, from identity to women to love to faith and healing. Victory utilizes her words to highlight the importance of social issues and to share her work through various platforms on YouTube, on Instagram, on TikTok. All of y'all should follow her. I'm sure she will give us help on how to do that. And we are here today to talk about her new book, Conversations from Last Night. Again, there are copies here on the front table. This new book is divided into 8 sections, a collection of poetry, short stories, and visuals that cover a range of topics, from love to heartbreak to hope to identity to spiritual discovery. Each piece is crafted to reflect the complexity and the beauty of our human experience. So whether you are looking for laughter or joy or reflection or just a good compliment to a great cup of coffee or tea, this is the book for you. Who wants to grab a copy? Say yeah. I just sold 12 books.
Oh my God. That was such a powerful, introduction. The way you read out that, it felt like I was watching a commercial on TV. Well done.
Thank you. Well, I want to jump in with the passion behind poetry, which is something that I felt from quite literally the first page of your book. In the introduction, I don't often quote introductions. I don't know that I've ever quoted an introduction, but in the introduction you wrote, "I consider it a sacred privilege to be a poet. This ability to love fiercely and to write my way to healing is God's gift to me." That put me to pause. I had to think back, and it reminds me, we're switching microphones.
Yeah, so sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yes, nice, thank you so much.
Hello.
Slightly better. So I started off by quoting your introduction, but I want to jump into the book itself, Victory, and so maybe if you could speak a little bit, take us from the top. Why did you write this book? Why bring this conversation? What inspired you to bring these poems and these stories together?
Okay. First of all, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks to PFAL, thanks to Tosin and everyone that put this together. So now to your question, why did I put this together? It's because there's so much power in poetry. There's beauty in storytelling. And although that is a part of our society that seems to be going, into oblivion now, I just thought it would be really great to document life's experiences. Because to me, poetry is how I live. It is how I breathe. It is how I walk through life. I could be having a bad day, and I'm like, oh my God, I write a poem. I could be having a great day, I write a poem. I could be in love and I write a poem. I could go through like a heartbreak and then write a poem. So it is documenting seasons, and I think that even when things don't go as planned, even when life throws at you lemons, sometimes in that moment it's easy to get submerged in the current reality. But if you look back even at your life, you step back, and a few weeks after, you look back at that moment and you're like, it wasn't so bad after all. Sometimes you are even able to laugh about it. And so that's the reason for putting together this body of work. It is a magical creation, to be very honest. It is someone flipping through, different seasons of life, touching on love, heartbreak, healing, hope, identity. These are things that we all can relate to as humans. I think that we are all walking stories. And so it just felt like the right thing to do. And just by the way, I've had this dream for 5 years. I've been wanting to publish this book since, I think, 2019. And so every year after year, it will be on my New Year resolution. It will be on my goals for the year. But it just never happened. And so this year, I told myself that, you know what, I'm going to do this because I'm going to let the world enjoy this gift. I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm so glad I did. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. There's so much to dive in. Yes, clap it up. That is a clap-worthy answer. This idea of the seasons of life. I love this phrase. I love this idea that we are walking stories. And that's certainly, as someone who's read the book, and I sat down and read it in one sitting, it's a book you can't put down. You feel that passion. You feel those stories coming through. And again, I scribbled in the margin here, I just wanted to share this, as you were speaking, it resonated again, a quote from the poet Audre Lorde, the great Black American feminist poet, who she wrote, "Poetry is not a luxury. It is a vital necessity of our existence. It forms the quality of light within which we predicate our hopes and dreams towards survival and change." That movement, that seasonality that I hear in your words and your response there, it's powerful. It's powerful.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And so maybe my next question transitions to a little bit more of like where we are here today, which is LSE, and the fact that you wrote this, you compiled this while you were a master's student. That is multiple full-time jobs stacked on top of one another. Tell us a little bit about your experience here at LSE, how that maybe shaped what we hear in the book.
Yes. So even though many of the poems written in the book were written like over the years, over multiple seasons of my life, but I was at LSE and I wrote some poems here as well because I always write. And I remember this particular poem. I think I was taking the economic development specialism in my department, so applied development economics. Yeah. And so I think it was the second semester, and I was taking a course where I needed to learn Stata, which is a statistical software. It was the first day of the lab session. I went in there, and to be honest, I did not know what was going on. It felt like everyone had experience with this thing. Like I was lost. And I remember after that session, I came out of the building and I actually started to cry because I'm like, oh my God, like I knew I was going to figure it out, but it felt really overwhelming. And so, like I said, I document seasons, and that was when I wrote a poem in the book titled London Tears. Because, yeah. So I'll just read it. So this London Tears is from the... Okay, so I'll just read it. So it says, "You understood the feeling before you learned to say the words frustration. It was probably in grade 3, trying to complete a mathematics assignment on long division. The tears, the overwhelming puzzle of why on earth do I need to add 0 to a number to divide it? The feeling of being lost at sea with thoughts of how on earth did I get here? And questions like, do I belong here? Is there a life jacket and will I make it out alive?" So today, as you struggle to fight back tears in a crowded place, remember that this is just a replay. And the weight that was meant to break you became a dumbbell that kept you in shape. Remember that this is not the end and you are never alone. God won't let you sink. So this is an example of how, my time here at the LSE shapes this book. It's in everything. It's in the people I met, the laughter. I even wrote a poem about autumn. So that's it, basically.
It's a testament to your multi-talented nature and your ability to multitask, to be able to complete an incredible project like this at the same time that you're going through a program like this. And to find ways not just to do them simultaneously, but to weave them together, to again allow the poetry to speak to that experience. Which kind of brings me to a next question, which is around what I mentioned at the top, that the book is organized into 8 themes that cover 8 parts, that cover different themes. And again, if I might just briefly read once again, I told you all that I had never quoted an introduction before, and I've definitely never quoted a table of contents before in my life, but I'm about to read you the table of contents because it is itself a poem. The table of contents reads like this: "Love is a beautiful thing, but sometimes it hurts. So we build walls. Instead of talking to God, what if we love ourselves as we move through life and see challenges as new beginnings?" I'm not even on page 1, and you've already gotten a poem in the book.
Yeah.
Tell us more about these poems, about these parts, and maybe which one speaks to you. I've just read you the 8 parts as a poem itself, but could you speak more about why you organize it this way, and which one you really resonate with the most, perhaps?
Okay. So, I didn't just want to write just any book out there. I wanted it to be special in its own way, and that is in paying attention to detail. So apart from that, it has like illustrations and everything. But for the way it was arranged, the poems are on different themes. So Love is a Beautiful Thing is a section that talks about, when you find love, you're excited and everything. But sometimes in her, it speaks about heartbreak. So we build walls and all of that. So I love every section of the poem because they are things that sort of I can relate to passionately. But I would say that of all 8 sections that talk about everything, the one that resonates with me the most is what if we love ourselves? And that's because most of the time we sort of go out there looking for love without first looking at ourselves in the mirror, appreciating who we are as people, appreciating your identity and loving yourself. So that is a section that sort of speaks to me, and I would, if I may, I would like to maybe read a poem from What If We Love Ourselves. So I'll just move to a poem titled These Words. And These Words was inspired by, a lot of who I am now is quite different from the very, very expressive child that I was growing up. And that's because I took in a lot of negative feedback from society about how I was like too much. I had lots of questions in my teenage years as well. And hey, you. Yes, you. Too short, too tall, too dark skin, color of mud, too much skin, too voice, laughter, too soul spirity. You are too much. You. These words did not land on my hips, chest, or neck. They heavily rested on my eyes so I couldn't see anything else. These words called cowardly behind phone screens and told me what beauty meant. Said it's being tall with the right figure and a light skin complexion. These words I succumbed to. Like a child on reflex responding to the call of her mother, these words I drank in. I let it flow from head to toe. I let it baptize and wash away my rights to just be me. These words made me not questions through the night. Left me with a heavy bag of curiosity around my eyes. Made me stare at my feet. Not brave enough to see or be seen, but these words now lay 6 feet deep. They are dead, they are buried, and they would never rise again.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but if there's another one from the section, I think it is such a strong section. I think we would love to hear another one.
Okay. So this is a very short one, and it's titled Sorry, Not Sorry. And I wrote this when I was working, so I worked a bit in Nigeria before I came here. I remember my first day at work in a bank. I was so confused. The words were being thrown around like liquidity, market, this, that. And I was like, oh my God, am I going to survive here again? So I wrote this poem because I found myself always apologizing, always like saying sorry. I have a question during the morning meeting, and my first thing I say is sorry. I want to make a contribution, sorry. And then I was like, you know what? My name is Victory, and I'm not sorry. So here goes. Sorry, I have a question. Sorry, can I sit here? Sorry, I have a suggestion. Sorry, can we maybe do it this way? Sorry. Why am I sorry? When I have something important to say, why am I apologizing for having an opinion? My name is Victory and I am not sorry. So yeah.
Thank you for that. That is one of the 30 odd pages that I've earmarked in my book here.
Awesome.
Yes, as a chronic sorrier. I deeply related to that poem, actually, and read it a couple times back. But it's really powerful to hear it in your words, particularly the way it ends. Thank you for that.
Thank you too.
Keeping us moving, because there's so much that I want to talk about in this book with you. It explores a lot of key core human themes that you've spoken about: love, heartbreak, hope, identity. I want to know, how has the process of creating this book impacted your own personal growth and understanding of these themes?
So definitely, this book is very personal. It's not like, okay, I'm forcing myself to rhyme or something. It is very personal, and so a lot of it is really how I've survived through seasons of questioning myself, seasons of, learning who I am as a person. And some of these poems start as a letter to myself, as an encouragement, and over time they become even like almost a meditation sort of. And so I have one like that, which is titled "This Crowd." So let me just try to find that. So it says, "This crowd." So maybe a bit of context. You know how sometimes you're trying to start something new, and it feels like everyone is already doing it. Like maybe you want to start a podcast or you want to whatever. Like it just feels like, oh, the other day my friend also started it. So it feels like you are trying to get a job and it's like the industry is saturated already. And I just thought to myself, there's always going to be space for me because I'm unique. Like everyone can be doing this, but when I'm going to do it, it's going to be different because there is the me element and there's the you element. So we should never feel discouraged because everyone is doing something we want to do. And so this crowd will not make me stand still, arms folded, sulking on a busy Lagos road like I did not leave my house with a destination in mind. These faces will not make me question the journey, the distance between two worlds and how fit my legs are for the run. This moment will not make me question my faith. I said, give me this mountain and I will crush it. For by my God, I run through troops, I leap over walls, I come out strong because I am more than enough. So yes, it is true that everything I touch turns to gold. And these fingers are laced with light. So I draw life out of dark puzzle pieces and I laugh without fear of the future. This is what I tell myself on days like this. This is what you should tell yourself too. So yeah.
Again, thank you. And that kind of really nicely segues into the next question that I had, which is around the really strong emotional resonance that goes through all of the pieces in this book and that we so clearly hear in your voice here today. And so your poems evoke strong emotions, and I wonder, how do you approach crafting pieces to make sure that emotional resonance stays not just on the page, but actually gets into us as the reader, as the listener?
I think it's keeping it simple, keeping it truthful, keeping it honest, and really just writing from my heart. And sometimes I write poems I never share, but as soon as I get sometimes I write and it's just sitting on my draft, but there's a lot of honesty that comes in the piece. It comes from, conversations with my friends, comes from moments of deep reflection. And that is, and to be honest, I feel like I've taken away that pressure of trying to sound like everybody else. Like, because there's this perception that when you're a poet, you need to sound a certain way, or you need to rhyme a lot, or you need to. But poetry is really just a language. It is a language of the heart. It's a language of, it's an emotional way of communicating. And I feel like I meet people who often say, "Oh, I don't like poetry. Or poetry is not my thing." I'm like, okay, that's probably because you have a certain perception of what poetry should be, but poetry is you, it's me, it's like, so I try to keep it simple, I try to keep it honest, I take life experiences and I sort of just write from my heart, basically.
Yeah, I could talk to you for an hour about everything you just said there. That really resonated with me. As I used to teach poetry before I moved to the UK. My job was teaching poetry. And I would often go into classrooms where all the students would say they hated poetry. And I don't think it's because they actually hated poetry. I think it's because they had a very narrow definition of what poetry could be. And in the US, where I'm from, poetry is typically taught in the classroom as old dead white guys talking about flowers. There's nothing wrong with that, but that is not all of poetry. Poetry is the way that we move through the world. It is the stories that we tell, can take any form. I love your advice. Be simple, be bold, be true to yourself. You are the world's leading expert on your own story, and you should claim that, and you should tell that. And that's something that, again, rings so true in this book. And it is a gift to be able to share that story, to be able to share with that confidence. I want to jump on it because I sense we're probably going to run out of time in the nearest future, but we're going to stretch it. I'm just not going to look at the hosts and so we can't not end if I don't make eye contact over here. We can actually end if we need to. But Another key thing that I picked up on is the spiritual connection in this book. And you write about the wisdom and the honesty of the Psalms. And I wonder if you could maybe elaborate a little bit on why you chose to bring that spirituality element to it and why it's important to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like, so first of all, I'm a Christian and I'm a person of faith. So the way I respond to anything I am having a bad day is I always have moments where I sort of just pray and I reflect a lot as well. So if you've ever read the book of Psalms, which is a book in the Bible, you see how honest the writer like David is in the way he sort of expresses his emotions. You literally read it and you can tell that, oh, he's being chased by enemies. You read another part and you can tell that, oh, he has just conquered. You can tell that his questioning is like, oh my God, am I going to die tomorrow? You know, and for me, that is really what this book is about. So the wisdom and how honest the Psalms are is how you would feel when you're reading this book. It's really just the way you live, the way you breathe, and you're like, wow, okay, I've been there, I felt that before. Oh my God, yes, I know this. Speak. So yeah, that's really it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And definitely it comes through the universality of the Psalms, again, in the human experience. As we start winding down here a little bit, I wonder if we could just pivot to like a fun question, which is like, what's your favorite poem in this collection? If you were in front of a room full of people, what is the poem that you would want to share with them and why?
So that's like a trick question because like, I don't, what's my favorite poem in this book? Sorry, I just need a moment to look through.
One of the favorite poems. It doesn't have to be a pure hierarchical of the top one, but what's one that kind of speaks to you in this moment?
Okay, so the thing is, I think maybe I should say poem might be a bit of a stretch. So I have a favorite story because the book is a collection of poems and short stories. I have a favorite story which is titled Indelible Mark, and I love it because of the humor in it. It's fiction and it's very beautiful. But I feel like I love all the poems, but this one in particular for me, it's something that I really love, even though it's not my favorite, but yeah. Because I don't think I have a favorite one. So this is titled Please Don't Stay, and it's God forbid that you settle on this road, that you spend a lifetime making a home out of what was meant to house your footprints. And yeah, I like that because it's just a reminder to keep moving. It's a reminder to not make a tent out of walkways. It's a reminder to know that there's more out there for me, to not sort of settle and just like, yeah, you know. And so I like this because it speaks to me in this season of my life. So probably it's my favorite for this season of my life because there's like a tendency to just be like, yeah, whatever. Because the weather sometimes makes you feel like you don't want to go anywhere. You just want to be by yourself. Don't talk to me, just whatever. But like when I think about this, I'm like, no, I have to motivate myself to keep going. And so yeah, this is my favorite for this season of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, again, like the theme of movement is so strong throughout the book. And I think that's one of the hardest aspects of poetry writing for me personally, is to take a listener, a reader on that journey, to make each one feel like there's momentum, that you don't want to put it down, that you have to actually read the next one because you see the linkages. Not linkages in that they are all the same and that's repetition, but that they build upon one another, that they take you in different directions.
Yes.
And again, like the book does a beautiful job of that from start to finish.
Thank you.
And so, I mean, it's very clear what I think about the book, but I'm wondering, what has your feedback been so far? What's the reception been? And maybe also, as a second question there is, what's on the horizon for you? What are the next projects that are coming?
Okay, so I think that the reception has been very beautiful. I'm so glad that I'm so glad I published this book. Because, for example, I wouldn't be here now, but when I published this book, I did not know that I was going to be here today, you know. So that's one thing, like, you need to just put yourself out there and do whatever is on your heart. Doors will open eventually that you probably do not even have, you know, you're not thinking about it actively when you're doing it, but I just want to encourage someone out there to, you know, take a bold step. But, so the feedback has been really great. I think that one of the recurring things has been people saying, oh, I wish there were more stories in the book, because it's a collection of poems and short stories, but the poems far outweigh the stories, and they're like, oh my god, the stories are so beautiful, I wish there were more. And so I think I would like to explore the world of fiction more. So if I'm working on like a next project, I'll step outside of my comfort zone and sort of try to write more fiction stories and maybe work on a collection of short stories or a novel or something of that sort. But in the short term, I'm going to be having like an evening of storytelling, poetry, conversations, drinks, just like reawakening that storytelling community, that whole thing of just being chill, listening to people speak, listening to live music. I'll be having that in London before the year ends, and I would post that out on my social media. And so I'd really love for you to be there. You'd really have a great time to experience creativity, on in the just beautiful time. I think I answered your question.
Yes, we will all be there. And again, one more reminder, folks can purchase the book up here, is that correct? Yes,
so my books are here for sale. So at the end of the event or when there's a break, you can come over and I would give you like a signed copy of my book. So thank you so much for coming, for sharing and supporting.
If I might, one last word, I would love for the last word to be from you in a poem. As we're here on this kind of day reflecting on Black History Month, on roots, on bridges, on reclaiming our story, something that's so powerfully threaded throughout this book, I wonder if you have a poem that kind of reflects upon these words and that might sign us off here today.
Okay, so this is the final poem for me, and it's just like a charge to everyone here. We need to, in the spirit of Black History Month, we need to know that there's been so much pain in the past, but it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. There's so much opportunity for us in the future. There's so much, the sky is big enough for us to soar. So this is not the full stop. Not a brick wall to slam our faces. Not the edge of a cliff with no branch to hold, no boat in sight, no caution in case we fall. This is not a free fall. Not defeated sigh ringing into the night, an endless night with no morning in sight. This is not a black sky. Not a tired stare with no silver stars. Not the space that would hold our last words. Not the earth that will trap our feet with no fight. This is not the final ring. There are no towels to throw in. No buckets to kick here. No time to dip our souls into pitiful pools. See, this is the Red Sea. So these oceans, they would bow. I said these oceans, they would bow. So do not disown your audacity. Do not strangle your hope. Do not bury the vision or drag your feet in despair. I said this is just a brief pause. A hold on, we will catch our breath. A wait here, we will think ahead. A loophole we will fill with words of hope. A short nap before taking the mountains ahead. I said this is not a full stop. Thank you.
One more gigantic round of applause for Victory Osarumwense. You can purchase her brand new book, Conversations from Last Night, over here. You can get one for yourself. You can get one for your friend. There's lots of books up here. Let's make sure that there are none by the end of the night. One more applause for Victory, everyone.